Hello my trading friends, it's your Manuel here once again. I thought to myself I'd make a short video once more. It's more about just giving you a few pieces of information or perhaps addressing one or two questions that have recently come up. I'm just going to take a look now and make a short video to give you some more analysis tips like how, what, who, where, and so on and so forth. We'll be taking a look at one or two things. We'll also be looking at some currency pairs here. Yeah, just a basic thing, so to speak, right? What we're doing here. Just as a refresher, and perhaps some questions are still open. And of course, the more often you refresh or repeat it, the better you become at these things. Maybe even today. Let's see, or perhaps we can quickly take a look at what it is, what one can quickly perceive, how a trend might develop, where you can find a position, and so on. But let's quickly go through that now. So let's take a moment now to look at any course that looks interesting. Yes, we can definitely use a euro cut right here. All right, then let's take a good look at this. As I've always said, my zone indicator M30 for entries, M15, M5. That's clear to us. Now, how do we naturally find, as I said, we always know that if the trend line is green or we are above the trend line, we are already in an uptrend anyway. Here, you could potentially only trade the reversals, as would be the case here, for instance, or as it would have been. When two reversals appear, that's often a very strong indication that the price is about to turn. You can also see here, as I said, you're familiar with reversal trading. It works quite well, as you can see here. But you really do need experience for that, and you have to be able to spot where to trade a reversal. Ideally, a reversal trade is found here at the EMA and the SMA 200 because those are typically bounce points. That means the price approaches this area and then with the reversal it moves back out, and that's when we enter. This is of course the ideal case. This means we have the EMA, the SMA 200 where it reverses a zone like this one, and then of course above the trend line. Here, for example, no trade as long as there's no zone in this area. Reversals are always traded with the zone. Now, of course, you don't always have to necessarily align with the trend line because reversals are often just short retests that keep coming back and so on. So, as I said, you need to be quite quick there and so on. So much for reversals. I've already explained this in more detail, but just a quick refresher. So wherever there are zones and reversals, that reversal is tradable. Most of the time, it's also true that with a reversal here, you don't wait for a retest. You could have done that here. But reversals are usually, when you say, okay, you have a zone here. The price comes in here now and then it goes out here. Let's say it exits here and you would then close the trade right here, for example, because at this point it might start to reverse its direction, or it could then go back up again from here. This means that you would then close your trade somewhere around this point. This is how you trade the reversal. Reversals usually don't involve prices moving in, then out, then back in again, only to then continue their downward trend for an extended period. That is extremely rare. So I would rather not trade on a retest now. Retest is naturally the safest variant to trade from our zone. That is important. I also mentioned that to you. Of course, we'll take a look at that as well. So reversals should be quite clear. If, as is the case here, there are two reversals, then it's usually quite certain that trade in the opposite direction is already happening, or that here the price turns around a little. So much for that topic when two people are involved. What I'd also recommend is look at the reversals, make a list, write down all the pairs you want to trade, and then check where, for example, the reversal works well. and not just a week back, but look through for longer. Do the work once and really check with which currency pairs, for example, does reversal trading work well. It's the exact same situation regarding my zones. My zones, they tend to function more effectively with certain couples and considerably less so with others. This is very important. So check out the courses depending on what you have, and you'll notice certain things. I don't want to do this work myself. I could of course do that for all of you now, but that's not what I'm aiming for. My intention is for you to put in the work yourselves. So I have a list here. This also works together with the trading ideas. Again, this is something where I say, okay, it gives me a bit more security, safer options, but I will not make this list available. You should do the work yourselves, because that's how you'll learn something new and also review each course a bit. So I've done this for all my currency pairs, indices, and cryptos and all that. Where does a reversal work well? Where does my zone work well? And so on. So do this work, put in the effort, sit down in the evening, study, be focused, and then you'll see, you'll learn something from it again. The next thing is that you'll also see for yourselves where zones are, even if I don't mark them again. Now you see our indicator is working very well. Well, if we take a moment to look at this now. We had a reversal right here in this spot. What that means is we're looking at what we'd consider a first zone, so to speak. I'm just roughly sketching this in now. First zone. The second zone. This is always our entry level area here. You're all aware of that. What that means is we had the reversal right here. So we actually traded this reversal right here, for instance. Even if not, it wouldn't matter. Now it would be here. That's a very good example, I have to say, with this EuroCAD. Then we would be here in this, we would have closed somewhere here. Now we are not entering any short trades theoretically, because we are here up to this point. We are currently long in this trade. From this point all the way to this point we are long. So we have here a situation where the two zones are currently in an upward phase. This means we're not entering any short trades here at this moment. At most we'd consider a reversal. And what's crucial now is that in the group there are always discussions about H1, H4, daily, M15, whatever the time frame. I told you very clearly and precisely, my indicator is only for M30. H4 would be a possibility if you happen to be swing traders, but it only performs 50% as well as in M30, or even less than that. It's only 40% as good. It works, but the underlying conditions are different. As I said, I programmed it precisely for intraday and M30 trading, and that you keep your trade open for a maximum of a few minutes, a few hours, or a day. If it's running smoothly, you can certainly keep the trade open for a week. It's clear if you had entered here, for example, somewhere long, and it keeps going and you always leave plenty of room for your stop loss, then that wouldn't be a problem. Right, back to that. So we're going long. With a break. Here, this structure right here, so with a break of this specific zone, we can re-enter long trades. But that does not mean that after the breaking of this structure here, specifically this particular zone, and you can clearly see that the EMA 9 located right here below is our primary signal provider. It has not managed to break through this structure, or more precisely this specific zone right here, nor has it exited it. Therefore, this implies that no additional long trade should be considered at this point. This means the next zone is approaching. We remain bullish. As mentioned, no short trades here, at most a reversal or retest trade between zones. So if we had entered the reversal here, our target would have been somewhere around the EMA or SMA or at this lower zone. But most of the time, that's exactly how it is. And after we have clearly seen here that we are once again establishing a zone, an intermediate zone. So as I previously stated, a main zone, an intermediate zone, we will of course be exiting at this point. For us, this is the reversal here. I hope this is now understandable. Pay very close attention. Watch this video in this section often so you understand. We're only looking at M30, not H1, not H4, not M15. The zones are exclusively in M30. And these zones are always... So you can see if there's one zone right here and then another zone is right here, we're going long. Therefore, we are definitely bullish. There is no short-term trend to be found here, no short trade opportunity, and absolutely no bounces are present. You can trade between the zones right here now. For example, you can see it again here. It actually came out of this particular zone and then went back down again. The zone was put to the test right here, so to speak. Long side. But these are definitely high-risk trades. I want to make that clear once more. These are high-risk trades. Nothing is truly safe or secure in the world of speculation, in trading. It's only secure once it has clearly left this specific zone here, the EMA 9, the price, and the EMA slowly follows suit and finally move out of this zone. Then we have again a truly bullish signal, so to speak, a proper bullish structure, you could say. Everything that is in between here is certainly tradable, but it is to be valued with a good 50 to 70% more risk than the upward movement that comes after this particular zone. But I could, of course, say here, okay, I'm in this position and I'll re-enter here and go long because, as I mentioned, the overall sentiment here is bullish. Therefore, I wouldn't execute this particular trade, not until it reaches this zone, but this trade here, that's what I would do. Or you can do it because we've bounced off this particular zone and we only enter long trades. So right now there's quite a bit of scribbling in here, but it doesn't really matter. I hope you understand this. Watch the video more often. You must understand how this zone works exactly. What this means is our next trade would actually only be initiated once this particular zone is broken, or this particular zone. So the EMA breaks through here for the first time. This means we're already in this specific area up here. This is the area actually right here where the EMA 9 breaks through. Only then would a long trade possibly be possible again, but that's irrelevant for us because we know we've formed a new zone here. This means this zone for us down here is now theoretically to be considered only as resistance or as an intermediate zone, not as a primary zone. The main zone has actually formed right here. This means with a break of this specific line here, EMA 9, we will only initiate alongside trades once more. What this means is that here it breaks. The price closes out again with the EMA 9. That means here a long trade would be possible again. But what do we say? It is forming a new zone, even though it's being broken right here. But then another new zone is forming right here. In this area, I'll just make this a little bit longer for you now, which means at this point, here we can clearly see the EMA 9 breaking out of the lower zone. However, we've actually formed a brand new one right here. This means the actual break would only occur with this specific zone here, so with this one. This zone here, a breakout from this zone, would now make a long trade possible. And that would be the case right here in this instance. Now you could naturally say, okay, one would enter the trade right here. You have a clear bullish signal right here. That's correct. Then we would be out of this. So, for example, it wouldn't be tragic because we always have a CRV. That means we would have lost a trade here, let's say. And we could actually get back in right here. Here he breaks out once again and then polish. That means, let's say, okay, I'm going to draw this in for you now. We would have started here saying, okay, it was polished. We'll put it under this zone. I'm making this zone smaller now. So I'm going to highlight something now. So good, that means we've started here because we're saying, okay, here we have the break. here we would have been stopped out naturally right here. You can clearly see that. All right. Okay. So that means a losing trade. Then we would have entered a second time. Here, this would have been located right here, somewhere in this vicinity. SL is now once again below this particular zone.
And we would have it here now.
1, 2 to 1. That means I'm going to write this down for you right here. We've got lost, number 1. Oops. Lost 1. All right. So we have a CRV here of 2.7. That means, let's just say, okay, if we were somewhere around here now, we might have taken some partial profits and whatever, let's just assume 2.5. So a win of 2.5, for example. Win 2.5, okay, that means we actually had it here now. So let's just left this here. We had the retest right here. And this is now the most important thing to understand. The retest itself, so you can only trade this specific zone by using retests, and then you'll achieve a success rate of, I'd say, 80 to 90%. We're talking about a range of 80 to 90%. And you can clearly see right here, this particular zone is being tested once again. Whether you enter here or enter here, it's theoretically irrelevant. We're now going into M15 or even M5, and we'll look at this. Oops. Yeah, it doesn't matter now. What do we have anyway? The profit target. So, and now let's see, where do we enter here? And that means now after a retest, with a retest, you have the advantage that your stop theoretically doesn't need to be down here anymore. It's naturally safest here, but the closer it gets, the more unsafe, let's say, it would be. But, for example, what we have here is we can say, okay, we'll assume this retest level right now and say, okay, one could say now you'd wait until it comes all the way down here. Entry point 1, or perhaps another entry, or entry point 2 if it breaks out here. But that's, as I mentioned, if it were to continue coming down further. You could also say right now, okay, that would be your stop point. Or you might say, now I have no idea. We've just tested this out here. That was the retest. The retest, that's now concluded. And as I mentioned, that's why it's crucial to enter at M15 or M5. There you'll see when the price turns around. Especially during a retest. This is very important. But I think for every trade when you enter, look into M15 and M5. Because usually these candle formations here, they point to a clear a reversal of the trend again, and it emerges from that. And that's how I always enter. So ideally, we would have, you see, entered right here. I would place my stop either here in the green or in the red area, not down here anymore. Down here would be safe, of course. That works too. The CRV would be smaller, but usually in a retest it doesn't drop this low. But then you really need to be quite certain. All right, then we would have entered here at the close of this candle. We would have placed our stop loss here or here. Let's take a look at that now. What else was in that area? You can actually see most of the activity took place right here in this area before. Let's use a different color now. Most of the significant activity actually occurred in this particular area. Good, that means we can place our stop loss right here. To place it in this green area, red would of course also be okay, or in this zone. But let's say I had placed it somewhere below here, right in the middle. Yeah, good. That means we would now have our next trade right here. Let's go out again. Bam! Here comes a new zone, and with a new zone you should also know what that implies. A new zone always means either taking more partial profits or often adjusting the SL. I've already explained that in the videos. So a new zone always means it can turn. If a reversal comes now, I would take more out of these, because it can now come back further. You could now place the SL here, in this case, below this last low, so to speak. But I would say in M30. And we would have partial profits right now. That means, just take a look at this. From this trade, we would have taken out. We lost our first one here. Most would have told me, shit, lost everything, scrap. But we had already opened a trade that would have been a 2.5 winner. And the next trade from the zone, that's why zones are important and how to trade them. But as I said, you should already know this. You learned this in my training. I've already made so many videos. Good. Now you see we have a 23 to 5. That's why the retest is so important. As I've mentioned before, you wouldn't have needed any of these trades at all. You could have simply waited for the breakout retest right here. His missstatus is your business wise. But this could have been it for you here in this area. Well, that could have been your retest. However, an ideal retest would at most just form a wick here and then go back in, not like this. But it doesn't matter. Eh? As I said, we have seen here, he came back to this spot, even if you had missed this trade. But this retest right here, this is the ideal retest. And even with all that, you would have lost the first one. That's really not a problem. We are allowed to lose sometimes. Losses are just part of the game. But you would still, in principle, have a CRV right now. Let that really sink in. And that's exactly what the retest does. So the retest is usually the safer option. And that's where it extracts the very last bit of volume from the zone. Once again, it picks up the last remaining people and then pushes higher. I have said this so many times and I have explained the retest so often. And the retest is the best thing you can do. Trade the retest from the zone and you would have had a CRV of 1 to 26. Now, just imagine for a moment that you had here in this particular trade with $250 risk, for example, with a $5,000, $10,000 account, depending on your situation. I have no idea what kind of account you might have. Or let's say, I don't know, you would have theoretically wagered $100 here. You would have lost 100, so $100, and won $2,600. That means you would have actually won this right here, or euros, depending on the currency. Sorry, I'm often caught up in the dollar obsession. You would have won 2,500 euros right here. And you see, this only happens based on the zones that you can read them. And you could have perhaps also made the reversal trade here earlier. There we would now also have, as I said, M5. Check it out. M30 is the reversal zone. Now there's a messy scribble here. So the reversal was located right in this area. That means we would be positioned here now. Shorted. Now you would of course have the opportunity to position your stop loss order directly above the designated zone. Because, as I've mentioned, waiting for a retest after a reversal is very rare for one to actually occur here. This means, theoretically speaking, you could have placed your stop loss order above the designated zone. Then at this point, you would have exited down here, again within this specific area, potentially achieving a 2.5 risk-reward ratio, or you might have perhaps placed your stop loss back in this very same region. Here, because you can see quite clearly again that something has happened in this specific area. That means you would have placed your SL over it, either slightly or within this very area. And you see, you would have had a CRV of 3 here as well. That means you would have had, starting from here, which was Monday, the 28th of November, only in EuroCAD, solely based on the reversal and my zone up to, let's say here, up to 6. December, my apologies, pause. In just these few days, you would have made, let's say, an additional 200 euros bringing your total to 2,700 euros. Yeah, but as I said, that doesn't matter right now. The amounts here are actually quite irrelevant. What's important is how you trade it and that you understand it. And I hope you've now understood quite well why one trades retests or how one trades reversals and how one finds zones. You can also see clearly here, if you look at this, this is an entire price zone actually in this area. And the M5 now, so to speak, yes. But as I said, we don't look at the M5, but in principle, there would be these small zones here, just like this one. This is now a zone where the price catches itself again and then comes out with a strong momentum. But you see, as I've mentioned before, that's why it's so important if you now concentrate solely on these kinds of things. And my VIP members, you can certainly attest to this, I'd say now, right? If you are trading reversals and you truly understand how to manage that, well, in M15 and M5, oops, sorry, I also need that zone. If you really grasp how to operate within this specific range and what exactly you should be looking for, and exactly that. Or even if you had entered the market here, that's a nicer reversal, of course. But never mind, if you had entered here as well, you wouldn't have been stopped out because, as I said, your SL would still be in. I mean to say, even if you had pulled it much tighter than that, you'll simply have to go and check it out for yourselves. Within this specific section right here, do you happen to see it anywhere at all? However, most likely, if you had entered right here, you would have already secured your first partial profit. This means you would have been stopped out at break even somewhere around here, and then you could have traded the second reversal as well. So you could have executed multiple trades in this area. But as I've mentioned, if you learn, and that's why it's crucial that you understand the candlesticks when you observe this within a specific zone. I think I've now shifted the zone a little bit. Then it's important that you know how you must trade this. And if you understand that, you'll have the best possible foundation to successfully close out these kinds of trades, and your CRV will be greatly enhanced. What's important is that you're making enormous progress in your CRV. And then it won't matter at all if you lose 5 or even 6 trades in a row. You saw this earlier, we had a CRV of 25 to 1. That means you could lose trades en masse. I hope you understood that now. Let's take a moment now to look at another trade from earlier today. Let's see, perhaps the RGM Euro GBP pair. Yes, we were actually involved in that particular trade as well.
You see here again.
It's good that one really has to be careful in these specific areas. That's why my arrow was drawn up to about this point. This means, as you always know, we always take partial profits and move our stop loss to break even before it reaches the drawn line or the marked level, because it usually turns back before that, or very often. And we would have had this area right here, which you can see, where we absolutely would have had to take some profit, or at least move to break even, secure it, depending on the situation. All right, let's take a look. How would we have traded here? As I said, here is a long trade visible from earlier. We also have the SMA and the EMA 200 strongly at this level on the hourly basis. Let's take a look at that. That means the post came today in the morning, somewhere here in this area. All right then, how would we have traded in this specific situation if we had entered the market right here? Let's say, okay, we would have started here. SL would have been located down here. He hit exactly 0.7, 0.7. Where I take partial profit and move our break even to 7 to 1, but 99% of the time we take it at 0.7. You'll get stopped out more often that way, but it doesn't matter. Well, then the price came back again. As I said, again, the retest procedure, you can apply the retest method here as well. Let's look at M5. I told you, you often see it very well there when a retest comes. That means we're waiting for one here. we would have been out here because we were given white somewhere. This means we would have made a profit now, just a small one. And now we're waiting to see when we can rebuild a truly bullish structure, or when we've had a completed retest, we're staying in the zone. That's very important. That means we're not breaking out of the zone here. I said that before. Then it often gets unpleasant unless it's just one candle that's gone. But otherwise, if several candles are out, like in this situation here, it's rather unfavorable or not particularly good. We've really only just finished building up the structure. And as I said, and here we then see, okay, yes, one could say, okay, an entry point here would perhaps be the very first entry. We're breaking through these two candles right here. This is more of a bullish formations. Okay, here we could have made our entry for the second time and here for the third time. This means theoretically we could have entered 3 separate times here. All right then, let's take for example now, we'll jump in right here, somewhere in these specific areas. Okay, we're gonna take a closer look at this. So, okay, let's not consider this case or that case now. Let's say, okay, I had waited here and here. That would have been for me now a formation where I would go long. So, okay, with the break of this candle here, I don't know, I hope you see that. With the break of this candle here, I say I'll enter. I could place my stop loss right here, but that would be quite risky, very tight. A sudden wick could appear from that. That means we place our SL now here outside of this green, so outside of the green area, and we're saying now, okay, you know, at 0.7 we'll reach break even. That means in this zone we would still have our break even point. I wouldn't do that right now because the momentum usually only emerges from the zone. That means it's important to understand here not to go for break-even when we are in the zone, theoretically speaking. However, I would then observe the price movement here. All right, okay, then let's assume we have now broken out of the zone. I've got some partial profits here. I can certainly take them at 0.7 to 1. That should definitely work. And then we say, okay, when do we make it widely available? At 1, I would, or perhaps with a breakout from the zone, okay, let's say right here, and you see if we would have been stopped out right here, that means we'd have a small profit again, but not the absolute top profit. All right, then we'd have another opportunity to get in here after
The fracture of this candle. SL will place it right here underneath.
Here we go again. And just like that, we're completely out of it. Well, now most people will say, okay, we don't want so many trades. Yes, that's also true. For example, with the Euro GBP, I only took the very first trade and then I didn't take the subsequent ones. That means I didn't take advantage of all these retests. You certainly could take those, but that really depends on how much time I personally have and how much I am actually at my computer. You really need to take your time now. If you're saying, as we see here, that the market price is currently undecided, or you might have said that one could potentially re-enter the market after the completion of this retest in this specific range. Let's say you had re-entered here and are now in. That would have been an option as well. You would have said at 3. Now we'd naturally be at 0.7. We would have broken even here, for example, or as I said, you would certainly have been stopped out a few times, but always in profit. What's interesting now, though, are these formations. It's very interesting to see bullish pressure now emerging from this zone again. This means I expect the price to continue its upward movement from here. A failed attempt. That this one will continue to go long. So I think it might perhaps come back here again. You see, it might test this zone again, but it will break out. And it's important that you understand there are several ways to trade these zones, how to perform a retest. This is now the exercise. As I said, I was only in this trade once and I closed it here. Well, not really closed. I then went break even here, just as I explained the first time. Ruled out, I'm out. I had locked in 30% partial profit at 0.7 and then was stopped out at break even. Yeah, that's a few $100s or euros depending on my account. That's perfectly sufficient for me for a single trade. It's really important to understand this point, that you don't necessarily always need to have such a massive CRV, but that naturally comes about if you have just 1 or 2 such trades in a week. Then that's absolutely enough. Okay, yes, I suppose I'd have to say that. What else was there to discuss today? The USD WTE. Yes, here again we can clearly see that we have successfully reached our target. So this was another winning trade for us. Yes, we would have entered right here where we posted this. Yes, this blue line here would have been our entry moment, our entry momentum. That means we would have entered here now. For the stop loss, you'd have to look at placing it above the zone. That would be possible. But it's a very very high stop level, so to speak. What's important is you need to go break even here and take partial profits. That means whenever it hits a zone, 107 is our target, or like here, our target, meaning our break even target.
Well, you know that, of course, so it's just that.
But here, of course, I certainly wouldn't have set my stop loss at such an elevated point. That would absolutely not have been placed at such a high level here. That means I would have probably been somewhere above this area here with my stop loss, or I actually was. So I was in the trade, but you'd have to look in MetaTrader now to see exactly how I executed this trade. But as I mentioned, I would now be somewhere around here, above this particular zone, above this last high point. My stop loss would have been positioned. You could have also placed it here within this area. Definitely not here below this specific zone. So not in this area here or not above this, but rather here in this area above. As I said, I placed it right here. As far as I know, it was lying here above this high point. And you can see we would have precisely reached the 0.7A right here. And here again, I took a partial profit of 30% or 25%. All right, I believe that was enough information for now. You now know, as I mentioned, how to trade a retest. Make sure you remember this. Retesting is the best trading strategy originating from these zones, the most important type of trading. That's where you will always achieve the highest CRV. If you're now wondering what this is here, this is a normal retracement. This is the usual retracement. That's how it's set up. And I am now using this partially for a stop setting within the zone. This means you can see that when currently in the zone, in principle, as you know, our SL is always positioned above this zone. You can use it except for retests, but this is just practice for now. So as I've mentioned, be careful with that. This is just practice. Or you can set it above a high in the zone, above the last significant high. And you can also see right here, we have a retest at this particular zone. That means I would wait here for now. We're getting item a try pass play here in a negative sense, so to speak, meaning a short position. So I would say you could, for example, enter here now. Short, oops, the line has moved out of place. One could consider taking a short position right here. We could now place the SL right here on top of this. This is, of course, associated with a certain amount of risk. So you could now position your SL right here once again. There's always an option for SL, either safe or perhaps over the high point. This would also represent a high point right here, as you certainly know. That's situated right here within this particular range, as you can clearly see. not in this particular area. So now we could say, okay, we're going to place our SL right here, or it would actually place it somewhere up here, right above it, because here, as I mentioned, we have again a small, a prominent position. That means we'll delete that. Today I'm scratching out a lot. All right, and that means we would be down here now. We could somewhere break even, and our target would now again be located down here somewhere. Because we have the retest right here. We have here try, pass, play. You're familiar with this one too. I've already explained what this is, what it's all about. And yes, retest, I'd say maybe that's what we'll do now. A nice retest is coming in again. It would have been ideal if these candles weren't like this, but despite that, I think we could wait until this candle closes in M15 and then take another look. Yeah, it's an easy, it's a cool trade. And if, for example, he really runs so far that we say, okay, he runs all the way down here, then we'll have a 4 to 3 CRV. Good. So, okay, I think these are important pieces of information. What might possibly be arriving or becoming available in the upcoming period for my VIP users? I've been working on it for about half a year now. I mean, I have quite a few strategies, you know. I've been in this line of work for a very long time, and I'm still tinkering with an indicator, with yet another indicator that will then be added to an indicator list, which then specifically also has elements dependent on the time of day. We'll be giving ideas. Also naturally, again, based on zones. So my entire trading is based solely on zones but it still needs some refinement, of which I'll take a look at it now. As I've said, as long as it's not running perfectly, I certainly won't release it. I'll just see how it's been running for 6 months now. As I said, the zone indicator took me over a year to complete. This latest one for 6 months now. I'm already testing and it's coming. So that will certainly be very interesting too. Especially you can then check time dependent. He always calculates his zones, or he already has zones, and these always occur either in the morning, in the afternoon, or during the night. So you could even say, okay, I'm someone who only trades in the afternoon. You know, I do most of my trading in the morning. I also find that the morning is better for trading unless you're involved in S&P 500 or similar things, or S&P 500 futures and those kinds of things. Then, of course, after market opening, that time is better. As I see it, everyone probably has a different opinion. These are always my opinions, and they're not set in stone. They're not gold. They're just my opinions. And I'm also one who mostly trades in the morning. But as I said, the indicator will come. I can even show you that quickly. So this will be the indicator, pause. As I said, whether I release it or not, but it will probably be for the VIP group. Pause. Don't let yourselves be confused here by the trend candles that I have here. Pause. So it only works on the Heiken Ashi basis. Pause. I've been testing it for quite some time now. Pause. I'm also trading with it. Pause. And as you can see, pause it again. It is based on zones. Pause. This means it's always a zone. Here, this is a zone where multiple factors come into play once more until he says, okay, this works. All the different factors align perfectly, and then an idea finally emerges. It's important to note these are not actual signals. So there are no signals that are, so to speak, functioning right now. I only ever have ideas or some kind of aid or tool. And this particular thing right here, it also serves as a valuable aid for anyone involved in the world of trading. Well, I'd have to say it really does work very, very well. He is now probably going to be called the morning trader, and then there will be the afternoon trader and the night trader, and all of that will be based on my zones. So that means it's going to be Manuel's zone trader. The other one is those are Manuel's zones. That's the zone trader, for example. But that has nothing to do with the other zones now. Don't get me wrong. It's daily based, where it constantly calculates things on these areas, so to speak. And it's important then to say, okay, it works perfectly or well, or depending on the situation. It will also be said here that it's more like it's not a real scalping indicator. I'm not saying that, but you must handle it differently. You have to say, okay, maybe not at 0.7, then you'll already go to break even at 0.3 to 0.4, take partial profit and so on. It might be one where you make more trades, many more trades or significantly more trades, where the hit rate here will be very good. But as I said, I'm testing it now and I don't want to overpromise. If it truly delivers and I say, okay, I'll release it, then in my VIP group, of course, it will be included in my other indicator. Whether you use it or not, that's your call. Perhaps some of you will use this for scalping. There will again be some fixed guidelines, for example, that the stop loss is placed at the high here when a short trade is entered, or vice versa. But you can also see here again, we had already achieved a 0.8 CRV here. Here again, you could say, okay, and that's going to be exactly the same thing. Okay, you're saying, okay, we've achieved that once more, 3 to 9, or yeah. So as you can clearly see, it's functioning extremely well. Of course, there are certain things here too. It doesn't always output a signal, so it always has to fit with all these things. So just so you see, it works very well. I've been testing it for quite a while now. A friend of mine has also been testing it for quite a while, and and he's making a great deal of profit from it. I must say, as I mentioned, for testing, I'm naturally using a demo account here. I have a demo account in MetaTrader that runs in parallel. Both of us, actually, my friend is also testing it. And yeah, but you see, we always have good CRVs here, depending on the situation. It's still being adjusted. It's also being refined. That's always the case. I might release it soon for you to test, but as I said, it must be in the demo account. I can tell you that right now. If you get it, only test it in a demo account, as it's still in testing. But you see, it works very well. We have a 4 to 1 here, then no trade, then a 1 to 6, then we have a 3 to 9, and then we have a 0.8. That means even if you had exited here at 0.7 or taken partial profit, this would simply have been a break even. But it wouldn't have been a losing trade. And you would have had here in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days now. Yeah, let's say 4 makes 5, makes 6, makes 9, almost a 10 to 1 risk reward ratio. Well, yeah, it's not bad. But as I said, that's still to come. We can also check, yeah, if it works that way elsewhere too. Here too, yeah, we can say that again. You can see it's also, of course, dependent on the currency pair. So it doesn't work quite as well in every single currency pair. Even here, we wouldn't. Now, even here, we would have exited in profit at 0.7. It would have been a close call here. If you had really been exactly on that point, you would have been stopped out. It's a difficult situation, whether you place it exactly on it or slightly below. Generally, you place it on the low, then you would have been out here. Otherwise, you would have had here, if you had been slightly below that level, yeah, 3, 4, 7. But that would most likely have been a losing trade in this case too. Well, you might say, perhaps you can see we still need to make some adjustments. But yes, in principle, it is already functioning very well. And I believe you can all, to put it plainly, look forward to something coming soon in the VIP group. Another indicator that will be absolutely huge. Well, as I've already mentioned, this is proving to be quite fascinating right now. Yes, okay. As I previously stated, it's not really a big concern. Let's also take a moment to consider something else. So it's important to note that it doesn't exclusively operate with the not just with forex pairs, but also with other assets. Here again, for example, we can see that gold is now entering a major zone. A long trade on gold might now be possible again from this point to this point. If he manages to close this one positively here, I'd say, well, we'll have a look at that then. Let's just get back to the indicator. Sorry about that, I'm getting a bit sidetracked. Yeah, here again, you would have clearly seen, okay, the entry point right here and the SL right here. 1 to 6. So it doesn't only work for currency pairs now, as I mentioned here, to 4 to 1. Here, no prediction whatsoever, not even in this particular case, as you can clearly observe, even though it did go long here. But as I've already mentioned, a great many different factors must really come together again for it to generate a signal. Yes, he's accurate despite everything. So you see that 0.7 to 1, he always achieves that. That means even with small partial gains. But as I said, he'll mostly be in the scalping area, like here. Such a one will then be a close call. That means a person like that can then, but as I said, losing trades, keep that in mind. But even that one ended up in the black. But even though, as I mentioned, it was a very close call. But as I always say, losing trades are just part of the game. But as you can clearly see, the indicator is actively working there. That's still in the pipeline for now, but it will definitely be coming soon. I truly hope I was able to show you some interesting new things today, especially with this indicator, something new that will be arriving.
Okay, so now we're going to take a much closer look at this particular thing.
Oops.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. This trade, it looks like it could really go now. The SMA, the AMI 200, they're right below us, pushing us exactly out of this zone. Oops, it's pushing it right out of the designated zone. What this means is you could now start right here, so to speak, and place SL beneath this specific area. Always pay close attention to what has happened here. This particular section can be utilized very effectively as an SL zone. That means I would actually place it here now. I would put it down right here now. So for me, this area here would now be interesting. So I'm just showing you here how I proceed with such things. I would consider this to be quite profound. Now, which means I would just lie down right here and then, yeah, let's just see where this whole journey takes us. Target one would of course be here in this area. That means here we would have the first target with 0.9. That would be a good fit. And the second target would then be up here, so to speak. We would have 4 to 2. Let's see if that's going to work out. I'm not taking this trade now. Sadly, I'm out of time today. But just so you see, again, here you often quickly spot something, analyze it briefly, and you see here that he in M30 that a significant primary zone had been established in this area, which I had previously taken the time to mark out. And then I see something like this, that, for example, that she's doing a retest here. And I'm thinking now, is without much analysis, without really looking to see what's coming, which means we've come down here.
It's possible this is here now.
A short position, so that's why we're entering here with a smaller risk, meaning not with such large lot sizes. Generally, I see it as a short position unless it were to break through this specific zone here. Then it might potentially go long again. Yeah, we'll have to see. So I still assume that we can reach this target here. Let's see what comes, what happens. As I said, I'm not entering this trade now. That was just a quick analysis so you can see perhaps how to quickly find something like this. Yes, I wish you all a good rest of the day or a good evening. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. As I said, watch the video often, especially the part where I explained the retest in detail again and where I explained the zone in detail. It was a lot of scribbling, I'd say, but despite everything, it was a very good exercise, a training for everyone. You'll see what might soon come as a new indicator in the VIP group. Just for a trial run initially, then later it will naturally be permanent. This indicator, just like my current zone indicator, will be an absolute dream and prove to be extremely helpful for you. I myself also trade with my own indicators. I wrote them myself and naturally I tested them myself. And you know that I only put out what is 100% reliable. Trading isn't a 100% guarantee, but if we have a 70, 80, 90% success rate, we can live very well from it. So I wish you all a good evening. Ciao, ciao. If you have any questions, please contact support. My support team is there and knows what to do. I'm also part of the online support team. But as I mentioned, just feel free to ask if you have any questions. I would really appreciate your feedback once again, whether it's feedback in the free group or feedback in the VIP group. Only with feedback do I know how you're doing. Only with feedback am I motivated to keep working, to create more things for you and to support you where I can. And with that, bye-bye guys, your Manuel from Master Trading Team.